Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left me.
What's cracking, y'all? Today I am super stoked about my guest. I'm always jazzed about my guests, of course, but this one was actually really cool, very multifaceted dude, and we had so much more in common than I ever would have thought. DeanK.Piper, the Pipeman himself. This cat has radio shows, networks, TV, everything, man. He's a promoter for all sorts of events. He's currently promoting an event that Corey Taylor's doing, which is dope, and you know how I feel about that. So, very cool, very cool. We talked about everything from MMA to boxing to promoting, doing radio shows, everything, man. It was a fascinating conversation. And this dude had the audacity, let me tell you, if he had nothing else, he had the audacity to challenge your boy to a game of Madden Football. Come on, son. He'd probably destroy me, I'm sure. I haven't played it in so long. But we have to make that happen. That sounds like fun. Maybe on the Twitch channel or something, we'll do something live. It'll be a good time. He's awesome guy. Really enjoyed talking to him. Had a blast. Good friend of mine now. I'm honored to call him a friend. Really cool. And we get along great. I'll be on his show actually on the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's going to be a good time. Check that out. Check out his show too. He's got so many. He's got something for everybody. So check out everything he's doing, and you will not be disappointed. He's like me, man. He's an outspoken cat. He's got a lot on his mind and a lot that he doesn't mind saying, man. And we had a great conversation. Check it out.
So how are you, brother?
I'm good. Here in South Florida, the embarrassment of the world, COVID 2020, hurricanes, political upheavals, riots, life couldn't get much better than that.
I can't complain now then after all that. I mean,
yeah, right?
we just got like the tail end of a hurricane a couple days back, but it was nothing. Literally just a little bit of wind and, a tiny bit of rain, but nothing major. Not like last year. Last year we lost power for just over 24 hours, and that sucks. But, Canada gets hit with them once in a while too, so.
Yeah, when you're in Florida, it's a normal day. Me, I love when the hurricane's coming because that means I can pull my surfboard out.
There you go.
And that's exactly what last weekend I got beat up pretty bad. Not this weekend, but the weekend before, because you had the tropical storm out there, the hurricane out there, and it was just enough to give us like 11-foot waves that were brutal.
Damn.
And the undertow, like you stepped in the water and got flipped on your butt.
Wow. Well, talk about making the best of a brutal situation, though. I mean, it's a good way to utilize that weather.
No doubt. Especially since here this time of year, the ocean's like a lake.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like now it's a lake again.
What's the weather like? It's got to be hot as hell there.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have 2 seasons, hot and hotter.
Right.
But I have to tell you, so I grew up in the cold, but funny story. Anybody I ever talked to and that's in Canada, I have to tell this story because, I was born in New York, grew up in Jersey, New Year's Eve at Times Square, it's freezing cold, but not a big deal. One year I take my family to go to Niagara Falls for New Year's. I am somebody that will never miss anything. It was about, I don't know, a half an hour before New Year's. And I just turned to my wife at the time. I'm like, I'm done. I can't even deal. It is not even worth it. It was so freaking cold there. Like, you think you're in cold until you're in cold. Mm-hmm. It's actually rather funny because what makes it cold there, as you know, is the spray from the falls. And that's similar here in South Florida, believe it or not, because it's funny. Down here, when it's 40, it's freezing. And like I can still at this point in time go up to Jersey and it'll be 40 out and I can wear a t-shirt. But in Florida, because of the humidity and the moisture in the air, like I definitely want to put my ski jacket on when it's 40.
I can vouch for that because I used to, for a while, I lived in Niagara Falls area on our side of the border. It gets cold in the winter, man.
Well, that's where I was on the Canada side.
Oh, there you go. So, geez, yeah, it's brutal. It is brutal. Some years especially, it's just like, minus 20 something. And then you get the wind chill factor that just sucks. And
it was ridiculous. Like I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not a winter guy necessarily. I don't really love it. So
you're in the wrong country.
I was born in January too, which adds to so screw me, I guess. But but yeah, Niagara gets so brutal that and I've been to Florida too, and I know that there are nights where it really cools down, and it's like, wow, you don't really come prepared for that in Florida. You think it's just gonna be hot all the time.
Yeah, but then here during the summer, it gets hotter at night, which is brutal too. It's like you think the sun goes down, you're safe. No, it gets hotter, and then all the mosquitoes come out. It's like it's ridiculous. Speaking of that weather thing, that's another place I was surprised. So I went to Hawaii, and I was gonna go, to top of the biggest volcano and wait for the sunrise. Like it's a big thing to do, and you got to be there at like 3 a.m. And luckily, I read up on it before I went, because the concept of me bringing winter clothes to Hawaii just never entered my mind. But literally, it was so freezing. We were on the top of this volcano, like 11,000 feet up, I think, and waiting for the sunrise, and it was freezing. Literally, I was up there shivering, and then a few hours later, surfing.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, totally.
I couldn't imagine anybody for 1 second thinking volcano and freezing cold weather. Like, it just doesn't sound like they should even be in the same sentence.
No doubt.
And heat rises, so the higher up you go, you expect it to be warmer, if anything.
Yes. Yeah, and so I'm up there at the top of this volcano, like hoping for an eruption so I can warm up.
Oh my God, that's nuts. Learn something new every day. Because I never knew about that at all. I had no idea that that would ever even. It never registered with me, like volcano and cold weather in the same area at the same time. Yeah. You would expect the closer you get to the top, the hotter it's going to get. But,
well, you would think, but you know how it is on top of mountains. Like even like when I was in Switzerland, it was cold at the bottom, but it was tolerable cold.
Right.
At the top of the mountain, it was like, forget about it.
Yeah, and that air gets thinner too, right? So it's damn.
See, I'm one of those idiots that, so like everybody's a snowbird. They come to Florida for the winter. Me, I go and travel Europe during the winter. Like I'm an idiot. I go from beautiful weather in Florida to walking 14 hours in Prague in like 20 below zero.
I guess it's one of those things where people get so used to what they have, they want something different. And even if that means cold weather once in a while, you don't get snow, you want to appreciate it a little bit because
it's nice when you can go and then you can leave.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean, right? Like you're not there permanently, so you'll appreciate it for a while, but when it gets tiresome, it's time to go.
Yeah, no doubt. Like when the snow starts getting black and gross and hard, like I'm out. See it. You enjoy that crap.
And the ones that are stuck living there complain about it every year.
I can honestly say too, when I lived in the cold, I refused to ever use an ice scraper. Like I would get in my car, turn on the defroster on high, and wait for that little hole opening, and then I'd start driving until it got bigger. I'm not standing out there and scraping the ice.
That's the worst. It's funny because about 3 years ago, I moved here from Toronto. I was born in the Toronto area, and I moved to Nova Scotia. And everybody thought, you're insane. It's going to be so much colder there. The winters are going to be so brutal. It's actually way nicer here in the winter than in Toronto. Toronto's been getting hit with snow every winter, like knee deep, and we get nothing here.
Wow.
In December, I could go out in a t-shirt some days, and it's like it's cold, but it's not like brutal cold. And then it's like minus 20 something in Toronto. I'm like, I'm glad I left.
Wow. Yeah, I've been to Toronto, been to Montreal. I love Montreal. I think probably I should have gotten to Toronto before Montreal because, like, I did Niagara and Montreal first, then Toronto. I was like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Toronto. But that's probably because, it was like, okay, I had the letdown from going from those two places. It's like when I moved to Florida, I'm from New York. I drove by Miami. I'm like, they call that a city? That's not a city.
It's true. I drove through Miami too, and down the strip, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, 2 blocks. The part where people go is like 2 blocks, and then you're done.
Right. In Toronto, yeah, it's just too damn busy. It's constantly hectic, and it's I don't know. I just never really got into it. It's like New York in a lot of senses, where it's easier to not even drive. You know what I mean? You got the subway, you got everything. It's just quicker. It's easier than driving.
That's what's cool about Montreal. You got those 12 malls interconnected underground. You don't even need to go above ground for anything.
Right? Their roads are confusing as hell, but once you get used to it, I'm sure it's fine. I actually cut through there, moving from Toronto to Nova Scotia. Actually did the road trip thing, so it was like about a 14-hour or more drive, but cut through Montreal, and it was actually kind of cool because I hadn't really seen it before that. So it was nice to kind of go through, but I was like, man, this place confuses the hell out of me.
I'll tell you a funny story about Montreal. So at the time I was, hugely into hockey, and I was a Devils fan, and Jacques Lemaire was the coach of the Devils. I had second row blue line for the Devils. And, when you live in New Jersey, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a Devils fan. You could be a Rangers fan. You could be a Flyers fan. You could be an Islanders fan. And it's a brutal rivalry. Like, you kick each other's ass. It's not even like your team sucks. It's like, I'm going to give you a bloody nose because you're rooting for that team. You can't wear that shirt in our house, type of thing. But the Devils fans are the least respected in New Jersey. And it's like, that's the hometown for the team. So go up to Montreal, and I'm wearing a Devils ski jacket, and like everybody there loved me because I'm wearing this Devils jacket. I'm like, holy crap, I have to go to another country to be appreciated for my home hockey team, because they all loved Jacques Lemaire, and it was like, there were more fans there of the Devils than there were in my hometown.
Right, and if you wore a Leafs jacket, not the same, it would not be appreciated.
Yeah.
I'm glad I just cut through there, because if you're from Ontario and you go over there, you're not well liked.
Well, that's like the Philly fans. They're brutal in every sport. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have the Flyers fans come into a Devils game, and they'll start fights with everybody. And if you're taught, if you go to a Devils game at the Spectrum, don't wear your Devils gear because you will get your ass beat. Like, you're not even allowed to wear your shit there.
Yeah, Philly's like nuts, man. Every team is brutal. Every fan of the team's brutal. It's just hardcore everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And there is that rivalry just of the people. It's like, in Jersey, it's funny because Jersey's a very small state, but there's a lot, it covers a lot. Like, it's funny. There's, you have the beaches there, you have ranches, you have the mountains, you have everything, but you have North Jersey and you have South Jersey. true South Jersey, we don't even consider Jersey because that's like near Philadelphia.
Right.
Like if you're near Philadelphia, you're not Jersey. Okay. And there's this whole thing, like, I joke with my friends who are from Philly. I'm like, your city's not a real city. You're like the stepchild of New York. I mean, it's that constant rivalry. And, they always want to be as good as New York, but there's only one New York.
It's true. And yeah, I mean, I've heard about that where there's all the different sections that everybody thinks, of course, theirs is the best and the right one. And then you got the one closest to Philly where it's just like, you can have it. It's yours now.
Oh,
Now, how does Philly feel about that? Do they want it or?
probably not. I don't think anybody wants it. It's weird in Jersey too. Like, you can tell what part of Jersey you're in by the smell. Every city has a different smell.
That's funny.
And then you have people, okay, so yeah, there's different types of people. Everybody thinks of Jersey, they think of Newark and the bad parts, but most of Jersey's rural. So I have friends that live literally 25 minutes from New York City. They will never have and never will step into New York City ever in their life. They're in the sticks and they prefer it that way. They are scared of New York City, just like somebody would be from Alabama.
I've lived in areas kind of similar where it's so in the middle of nowhere, and it's nice for a day or so, but I can't do it. I'm a city guy.
Well, that's what I like about that, though. So I'm not one of those people that wouldn't go to the city. I love the city, but I love living in the middle of nowhere, but minutes from civilization.
Right.
So you're in the middle of nowhere, but you can get in your car and you can go, like, literally, you could go in those middle of nowhere places in Jersey and go to from the most sticks to the biggest city in the world in a matter of 15 minutes.
See, that I love. Now that's great. That's the best of both, and I love that. That I could deal with. I think that's great. That is like that perfect balance because you could be left alone and still not have to go on some hour and a half, 2-hour drive just to go get groceries or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I have kids that live in North Carolina, and where they are, I hate it because like it's an hour and a half to get anywhere. Like I want to drive an hour and a half just to go get gas.
Right.
Like I'm wasting all this gas just to get gas.
Right. And then wasting it all when you get back.
Yeah, by the time you get home, you gotta go get gas again. And then there's no cell phone service anywhere, so you can't use your GPS. I had that happen to me one time. I was looking for gas. I couldn't get any signal or any GPS. I had no clue where I was. And I was running low, like I was going to run out of gas. I got lucky.
See, that to me is too much. That's excessive being that far away. I lived in a place where it was literally dirt roads and Mennonites. So it was like horse and carriages going by all the time. And you're literally driving down a dirt road, like just driving right through piles of horse shit. And, they had like small little towns that were about a half hour away, but they knew that if you wanted something and didn't want to spend the gas to go like an hour away to get it, you were going to pay their pricing, and they jacked everything up in the grocery store. Everything was so overpriced. Literally double what it would be in, say, Toronto or anywhere else with any sense, because they knew you're either going to pay it here, for the convenience, or you're going to spend that in gas going somewhere else to get it cheaper. So what's the point, right? So they really had you by the balls on that, and it just seemed shady to me. And it was just you couldn't walk anywhere. The closest convenience store was about a 45-minute walk, and I was like, what the hell? It's just too much for me.
But tell me the truth though, okay? So the Mennonite women, are they hot or what? Because they like, they don't have much choice where they're at, and they, it's kind of like the Catholic girls. I remember when I was in high school, if you wanted to get laid, you went to the Catholic high school, and you're pretty much guaranteed.
I didn't see them an awful lot because they didn't like out there, especially. They bought up all the land and they would build like factories type little buildings for sheet metal. One would do welding, one would do woodwork, things like that. And they didn't like outsiders, man. They didn't want anything to do with
Oh,
you
of course.
unless they wanted you to drive them somewhere. They'd pay you to drive them somewhere if it was too far for their horse. And they're a strange bunch, man. Because watching them work, I was telling someone else on the show, it's so nerve-wracking because they'll go up like 80 feet without a harness. They don't care if they die because they figure they're just wasting time here anyway until something better. So they go up there unharnessed and just walk around like they could care less, man. And it's like, dude, don't do that. Like, you know, it's like, you know, I'm not trying to see somebody die today, but you know, they have all these weird rules where like one of them is allowed to have a cell phone and a car, or you know, only the higher ups can have a roof on their carriages. It's very cult-like.
Well, the Mennonites, I look at the Mennonites, they're like the cheaters of the Amish.
Right.
Like you said, the cell phone thing, and that goes like a real Amish wouldn't be able to have any cell phone.
Right.
But it's like, here, let's bend the rules a little bit, you know, and we'll call us Mennonites, and then we can, you know, we can cheat a little bit.
Right. And then if you talk to the younger ones, like that are kind of in their 20s, they're creepy, man, because they will flat out tell you. It almost sounds like, you know, a mob hit, because they're like, as soon as the last of the elders drops, we make the rules. And, you know, they can't wait. I'm like, you know, I don't want to hear any of this. I don't want no part of this, just in case. You know, it's just creepy.
That's why I say to women, they have to be like, you know, like teachers and librarians, you know, they have that wild streak that nobody knows about.
Right, because they're so repressed. I mean, my God, you know, and just to see what they wear all the time, and it's like, I bet you, you know, they're probably dying to get out of that crap and wear something normal, you know, and feel like, you know, they have some kind of self-esteem. But their rules are so crazy strict that, you know, I would say no offense to the Mennonites, but I guarantee you none of them are listening to my ass anyway, so it don't matter.
And the Amish definitely aren't, because they're not allowed to. So there you go. The Mennonites might be cheating. But, you know, I'm thinking about it too, like, so you're an MMA fighter. It'd be kind of cool to see like some Mennonites or Amish, you know, having their MMA fights.
That would be the greatest thing. I would love to see that.
You know, you could have them take on each other. You know, who's the Mennonites and the Amish, which are the true Christians, you know, and they can have an MMA fight over it.
Jebediah versus Ezekiel.
Yeah.
The beards would have so much padding that you'd really have to hit them a few times.
Well, you know what? You'd have to have padding on your hand, because you're going to rough up your hand punching them in the beard. And your hand might, here's what happens. You give it like a left hook, and then, you know, your hand gets stuck in their beard. And that's how they get you, because then they just let you hit them. It gets stuck in the beard. They don't feel it. And then they just start pounding on you. And
throwing headbutts.
Your hand is caught.
I need to make this into a pay-per-view now. This has to happen.
Yeah, speaking of pay-per-views, what do you think about the Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight?
I'm excited.
I love Tyson, okay? I've always loved Tyson. You know, he's just such a brutal fighter, you know, and I mean, the fact is, Holyfield figured him out because of the fact that Tyson, here's the thing, Tyson was never good with people his own size. He needs those big trees that he can lunge up out of nowhere. And I get that because, you know, I go into mosh pits and I'm a little guy. And I love when the big guys are in the fucking mosh pit, you know, because they don't know what they're doing. They're just there to act like big shots and they're going to hurt and maim. And here I come out of nowhere. You don't see me, and I come from underneath and lunge up with a Tyson elbow, and they don't know what hit them.
I love it.
And that's the same. That's how Tyson is. I mean, it's unfortunate about Customato and Don King getting a hold of Tyson, because Tyson would have gone down if Customato lived. He would have gone down as the greatest ever, ever, ever. And I mean, if he knew martial arts, I could see him as an MMA fighter too, because he would just get brutal on people.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, um, and Roy Jones, I liked him, but not the same. Roy Jones he was too much in their day, in their prime. Tyson would have kicked the crap out of him because he was too much of a technician. Just like I don't like Floyd Mayweather at all. I don't know why people call him this great fighter. He is boring. He just sits there and waits it out, and he just scores points. If you're going to get in the ring, beat the crap out of each other. I remember I always said when I was younger, man, I'm like, if you would only have to pay me $1 million when Tyson was in his prime, I'll go in the ring with him. The first time he takes a swing, I'll let the wind knock me out. But it would be worth it. Here's the funny thing, though. Okay, so when he fought Buster Douglas, like I've watched every Tyson fight. When he fought Buster Douglas, literally, I ended up watching all the previous fights, and then I fell asleep right after they were doing the announcements. And then I got a call from my bro, and he's like, Tyson just got knocked out. I'm like, get out of here. That didn't happen. No, seriously, turn on TV. And I missed it. I missed the whole thing. So shortly thereafter, I used to be in the investment business. So I was invited to the Oscars party at the Roxbury. And who was there? Buster Douglas. So I met him. And he was all cool. He was the heavyweight champ now. He was in this white suit, and he had like 10 women around him dancing on the dance floor. But I shook his hand, man. You don't realize when you're watching on TV how big these dudes are, as you know. My hand disappeared when he shook my hand. Like, it was that much of a difference. His hand was like bigger than my head. And I'm thinking to myself, if somebody like him punched me in the head, what would happen? Because it would not be good. Just like George Foreman. I love when he made his comeback. And, he was all slow when he got old, but it didn't matter. Because all he had to do was catch you with one, which is exactly what happened with Moorer. Moorer, all he had to do was stay away. He won that fight. It was just like one boom, like getting hit by a Kodiak bear. It's not even a grizzly bear. You're getting hit by a Kodiak bear when George Foreman hits you. It's amazing. I would have liked to seen Foreman and Tyson, both of them in their prime, have a fight.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the Frazier Foreman was supposed to be similar to that, and Foreman kicked Frazier's ass, so maybe Tyson would have gotten his ass kicked. Who knows?
You never know. It's one of those things. I love Tyson as well. Absolutely. Can you believe that dude to this day has never had coffee in his life?
You know what's funny about that? I don't drink coffee. I hate coffee.
He's never
drank coffee. Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's weird. Like he said, I don't know, just never had any interest.
Yeah, me neither. I don't like the taste of it. I don't like anything that tastes like it. It's this fight. I don't know if you know, but originally it was supposed to be Holyfield. And I think Holyfield chickened out. I think Holyfield wanted too many rules because it's an exhibition fight. And Roy Jones is like, who cares? Type of thing. Because I remember reading about it when it first coming out, and Holyfield was like, can't do this, can't do that.
Yeah.
What's the point of the fight then?
I heard about that too, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a rematch. That's crazy. And then it got changed. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about Mayweather as well. The guy bores me. I'd rather watch grass die than one of his fights. And I watched that Mayweather and McGregor fight. That was trash, and I knew it would be. I knew it was basically a cash grab. It was just a publicity stunt. How are you going to have two guys like that go into this and not one person has so much as a black eye at the
I
end of
know,
it?
right? Like, listen, first movie I ever watched in my whole life, still my favorite movie to this day is Rocky. I saw it in the movie theater. Like, that's what a fight should be, in my opinion. You know,
Absolutely.
and that's how the old fights used to be. Like, I remember growing up on Muhammad Ali, Ernie Shavers, you know, all the greats back then that were just like some that people don't even know today, that they were just brutal, brutal fights in those 15-round fights where you just like beat the crap out of each other, you know, and
Exactly.
the fights that Ali had with Frazier and Ali had with Foreman and, you know, and then you had Ernie Shavers and Ken Norton and, you know, even the ones that sucked then comparatively because they were in the with all these others would be the greats today.
That's right. And I'm so like thrilled that on a couple of occasions I've had the honor of actually meeting George Chavallo, which was just so cool. You know, and I know a lot of people don't realize who that is. He's a Canadian boxer, and it's not because he's Canadian, it's the fact that Ali said he's the toughest man he's ever fought, and after two fights said, no, I don't want to fight him again. Like, there's no damn way. And of course, Ali won by decision because that's everyone's boy at the time. But
Yeah.
like George said, I went out dancing with my wife at the end of the night. He went to the hospital pissing blood. I don't feel like I lost, you know, like
Yeah, right.
a decision's a decision, fine. But I wasn't hurt, you know. And he was the only guy that Ali could not knock down, let alone knock out. So that's a tough son of a bitch right there.
Yep, yep. Well, I'll show you something I have right behind me here that will be of interest to you. I don't know if you can read that,
Oh, wow.
and it is signed by him.
That's amazing.
That one of the saddest days was I was actually at a fight that was Sugar Ray, and I loved Sugar Ray Leonard. Like that, to me, when I was younger, it was like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, man. And Sugar Ray Leonard, it was so sad when I saw him get beat by Camacho later after Sugar Ray retired and he fought. I went to the fight where he fought Camacho and Camacho beat him. And, you know, that would have never happened in Sugar Ray's time.
No, that's that's unheard of. Yeah, things like that. It's kind of sad to see. It's definitely, you know, a changing of the times too, right? You know, and it's just, yeah,
That's where Foreman was smart because when he beat Moorer, then he was done because he knew there's nothing else he could do. And he really wasn't of the caliber, you know, he got lucky.
right.
You know, he just caught him because he, you know, he couldn't move. He was slow as could be. You know, it was like a good fighter would have gotten in like 20 hits by the time his hit came to your face.
Right. I just recently heard McGregor's coming back out of retirement to fight Pacquiao.
Wow. Well, that might be a good fight because Pacquiao's a scrapper.
Oh yeah. So that, you know, let's see at least a black eye here and there, you know, like fuck. Yeah, I thought that Mayweather shit was trash. To me, I think a team of lawyers went into a boardroom, said, let's both, you know, protect our investment. Nobody
Yep.
gets hurt, everybody gets paid. You know, it's a big draw.
And I hate to say it, but I saw Roy Jones as the same thing. He was a little better because he definitely was. I thought he was a better fighter than Mayweather, and he did have power that he could do some damage. But he too, he was like always a hesitant fighter. He was looking to win, whereas Tyson always was just looking to, like he says, eat your heart out
Right. Basically.
and spit it back at you.
Right. Tyson just wants to hurt people, man.
So, you know the story about when he won the Junior Olympics?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was like scared as hell, and then Customato told him to use that fear, and 9 seconds, he demolished the guy. And I think that's what happened when every Tyson fight, except like the Holyfield one, the person going in to fight Tyson was done before they walked in the ring. They were so scared. And he was scared too, that he just turned it into rage. And
Right.
just, and Ali was great at doing that stuff. Ali used to mess with people's heads. Ali was fast. He had great, jab, but without that mind, he would have never been the greatest like he was.
I agree completely. That's what it was. It was the psychology of it all. Because when you anger somebody, they're now fighting off emotion in a sport that is actually strategic based.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes.
Now, you know what I don't like about MMA is I don't like the fights going on the same thing as I said with Floyd Mayweather. I don't like the fights where it's, just a bunch of grappling and then the fight's over. I'm like that. Like, I want to see some blood. I want to see you guys hitting each other. It's great that you're good at grappling, but, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I'm not a grappler guy. I like to just decimate people, man. It's what I do. I'm 6'5", 265. I want to punch people.
Yeah, see, you're the guy in the mosh pit that I want to take out.
Right. And I love that shit. I respect the hell out of that. I always thought it was awesome that some of the smaller dudes are the ones that are like the feistiest because they get overlooked. You underestimate them, and that's what gets people hurt.
Well, that's what's always happened to me in my whole life because, you got like I've gone up to people that are like 6 foot something, 300 pounds. I'm like, I will kill you right where you stand. They look at me and they're like, they back off. They're like, this dude must be crazy. Well, I'm like, that was a good tactic because this guy would have killed me. And I've had times that. So here's a Canada story. I was up in Canada with my wife at the time and my 4 kids. My youngest was a baby, and it was, I guess, like a college graduation. So in the hotel we were in, the college kids had like this whole floor, and they're Canadians, and they were down in the pool area. My wife was in the hot tub, and a couple of the dudes were like, I wasn't in the room, but they were like making moves and like getting handsy and stuff. Well, my wife's sitting there holding my baby, and then my kids are there, and my wife told my kids, the older ones, "Oh, don't tell your dad." And my son, being loyal, came and told me. And I'm like, take me to where they're at. And I went up there, and I'm 5'7", $140. Okay. I went up to their floor. There must have been 200 of them. And I was definitely seeing red. And I just went up to the first one, and I grabbed him by the throat, threw him up against the wall, and I'm like, who's so-and-so? He wouldn't tell me, but I'm like, you tell him if he comes anywhere near my wife again, I'm going to freaking kill him. And like, when you're my size and you go to a floor of 200 college kids and you do that, they might think you're a little whacked. And so, yeah, that was what happened there. I've had so many experiences like that, my mouth has gotten me out of a lot of where, and then there's the others me and my bro talk about when we were younger. It's like, remember those fights you just went into and you knew you were going to get your ass beat, but you had to do it anyway. I had that, when I was in middle school, this friend of mine that lived next door, he was a big dude. We were in 7th grade and he was already like 6 foot. Me, I was like nothing. Like, I'm big now compared to what I was then. But I had a big mouth. I always did. And my dad, he grew up in the streets of Newark. Okay, so he was a badass. And one day I opened my mouth to this dude. We weren't friends yet. And he kicked the living crap out of me all over the parking lot. My dad was watching out the window, didn't do nothing. Just watched him kick the crap out of me. I came in the house, I was messed up. He's like, it served you right. Don't open your mouth unless you can back it up. And me and this dude, we ended up best friends after that because he kept knocking me down and I kept getting up because that's who I am, you know. And it's like I've done that before. I've had like big dudes come and like hit me with everything they got, and I pick myself off the ground and smile at them, and they're like, meanwhile, you know, I'm ready to die, really, but you know, you got to put up the front.
I remember, you know, when I was a kid, I used to get into my fair share of fights, and a good friend of mine, even at that time, we were like best friends, but you know how guys are. Once in a while, somebody crosses the line, you got to check them, you know? So it came down to that, and I gave him a black eye. I felt bad about it after the fact. And he went home, and his mom looked at him, no sympathy whatsoever. She knew who did it. And she just said, oh, so you were talking when you should have been listening, huh? I was like, damn. And yeah, he kind of took something from that, I think, and realized, you know, sometimes, man, you got to watch what you say, because it wasn't about pissing me off. It was about if you know, like he knew he wasn't the fighting type. And it's like, if you said that shit to the wrong person, you would have more than a black eye, dude. Like, I got to correct you because you're going to go and say stupid shit like that to the wrong person. And they're not going to take it easy on you because they're your friend, because they don't know you. They don't care about you. So
Yeah.
kind of like teaching a lesson, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. You know, and that's lessons I used to teach my son too, you know, when he was younger, because, you know, I think that's something a father needs to do is teach son, you know, not only how to defend yourself, but when you might be a little out of your league.
Right.
You think you're badass, but you just never know. And like nowadays, it's kind of scary. I wouldn't open my mouth now that like I did when I was younger, because somebody would just pull out a gun and shoot you.
That's
You know?
it, right? It's not what it used to be. It's not like you get into a fight and then it's over,
Right.
you know?
It's like I tell, you know, women, you know, because I have daughters too. And, you know, I saw what they go through in high school. Women hold grudges against each other. I'm like, I don't get you guys, you know, guys, we're out there, we get in a fight, we kick the crap out of each other, and 5 minutes later, we're out on the baseball field playing baseball. It's like it's over.
It's true.
Another funny story having to do with, you know, size being deceptive, because little guys sometimes are a lot stronger than people think, you know, and you kind of discount it. And a lot of the big dudes too, they don't realize how strong they are. Like I have one of my best friends from high school. I always used to like harass him, and he was a big dude, but he had no clue how strong he probably was, you know, and I would back him down every time, and he probably could have pummeled me. But yeah, so one of my favorite ways to work out is on a heavy bag. And so I was in my garage one day, and like I had the heavy bag hanging, and then my wave runner was right behind the heavy bag. And my friend comes over, and he's like 4 times the size of me. So he's asking he's acting like a big shot though. He's like, you want me to spot you, and he wanted to hold the bag for me. I'm like, you're not going to want to do that. And he kind of laughed at me. I'm like, oh, I'm telling you, you're not going to want to do that. And he laughed again. And so he did, he held it. And I'm a lefty. So I laid in with a left hook, and he went flying over the wave runner onto the ground and got up and was like, where the hell did that come from? I warned you.
Right. I think, you know, a lot of people don't realize that some people just have power to them, whether they realize it or not. And I don't know how you go about discovering it. You know, back in the day, I was 6'5", but I was 180, thin as shit. And I used to play baseball. And one time, I think I was about 11, and I just drilled one past the baseball field into a soccer field. And a year later, I was on another team, and the umpire that was there that day remembered it a year later, because I got hit by a pitch, and she was like, did it hit you? And I was like, yeah. But, you know, she was like, Well, I didn't really see it. It looked like it hit the bottom of the bat. So besides, I want to see you smash another one like you did last year. And I was like, holy shit, that was you that was there. Like, you know, we still lost that game. We got smoked, but that shit was, and I never realized until then that, you know, even as thin as I was and I was 11, I had crazy power to me. And it wasn't until like a few years back, I quit smoking cigarettes like 9 years ago. And I signed up for the military when I was in college. And as a way to keep off the cigarettes, I went to the gym every day and I fell in love with it. And I just spent like 3 hours a day there. And I was basically prepping myself for basic training because I was like, I'm not going to be able to do the 5, you know, K runs with, you know, being a smoker. There's no damn way, you know, and all this carrying people and all this shit. So I went at it like 3 hours a day, just training, and I loved it. And before I knew it, I was, you know, 265, and the military had this 3-year wait list for the trades that I qualified for. So I was like, well, I got to do something, you know, so I just got into MMA instead. And because one day I went to a gym that was owned by a former WWE wrestler and MMA fighter, and it was all an MMA. It was like Olympic quality training facility. So they even had a green strip runway for sprinters to practice their craft. It was crazy. So when the Pan Am Games took place, they had a country call up and say, we saw your gym in the paper. Do you think our team could come train there? Like, of course, you know, so they had everything. So I went in, I started lifting there, and it was just kind of like one of those, hey, would you be interested? Hell yeah, that's what I'm here for. Because they also did pro wrestling training. I said, no, not into it. You know, I want to, like, you know, do the legit thing. And, you know, I had no idea how cool it was going to be from that point on. I didn't think much of it, but it just became an obsession, right? It was just training all the time. And, you know, I took a hiatus because I had a child that was born with a terminal condition. So he passed in 2018. They gave us, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, they gave him 2 weeks to live with that condition. He lived to be 2 years old. 9 days after his second birthday, he decided he was done fighting. But, you know, I think that was the obsession. It's just got to try to make him proud, man. And, you know, not that he would understand it, but it's just whatever motivates you, right? So then it put me in a position where I could do charitable things for his condition and for less fortunate kids and things like that. So it just became, you know, now I'm working on a charity that'll be the first in Canada to open that raises funds for research for a cure for NKH, which is the condition. Because the only ones that I know of, there's one in the UK and one in the US that the specialist is in Colorado that knows the most about the condition, which isn't saying much because every bit of information he has, he gave to the other hospitals so they know how to treat it. But all it does is slow down the process. They haven't found a cure yet. And a couple of years ago, they almost closed their doors for a year with no research because of funding. Colorado wouldn't give them any more funding until the next year. So a bunch of families that have children with it actually started raising money on GoFundMe to keep those doors open. So I donated to that, and thankfully they got to keep their doors open. But, you know, there's still families going through it. So I want to help find a cure. It's too late for my baby, but there's so many out there, right? That, you know, you got to do something. And so I'm so grateful that this has given me the opportunity to do this now and do all these other things that I took a hiatus from MMA. And it was just like, man, for some reason, it's like you're still relevant. People care. You do the show. Everybody's listening to it. And it's like, that's cool, you know, so don't take it for granted and just keep doing things with it. You know, I got my own business and things like that, and it's just never ending. But I may go back to it because, you know, I still love it. But
maybe you could have a fight with Mike Tyson.
Right? You know? Hey, man, put the money down. I mean,
yeah, right.
You know, what's a concussion here and there, right?
And I saw his training. I was like, oh, he's still badass.
Right. He's a monster.
Like, even if it is for only a few minutes that you're watching the video, that's enough. That, like, if I stood there and got hit by him like that for a few minutes, I'd be done.
Yeah, he's still an animal. I love it. You know, and that's the thing is, I love seeing that when, people will always say, oh, age is why I'm not, in the shape I was on. Say bullshit. That is not true. You gave up on yourself. Let's just be real. Because if you trained every day, look at Tyson at his age, guy's still a monster.
Yeah.
His power didn't go away,
And he doesn't really need stamina because that was never his thing anyway. You're lucky to get out of the first round.
exactly.
Like, who needs stamina at that point? Just give it all you got and listen. There's definitely a disparity in their sizes and their power. And here's the difference. Roy Jones Jr. in his prime was fast, but so was Tyson. So it's not like you're dealing with a slow heavyweight. When Roy Jones first became a heavyweight back when, he had an advantage because he was faster than most of the heavyweights. But Tyson's fast like a middleweight.
Yeah, he's got the speed to him and power, which is a dangerous combination because
no doubt. Rarely do they have both,
Right. I mean, look at baseball. The faster the pitch, when you put some power behind it and you hit that sumbitch, that speed helps it go further.
Hell yeah.
So boxing's no different. You get speed behind that punch and put your weight behind it, someone's gonna have a bad day.
No doubt. One little lunge from him. That's like my favorite move he does. Like, I can duplicate his move, like that lunge. It's amazing. And he's proof of, you put your whole body behind the punch, not just your arm or your fist. And I think that's a lot of people don't understand it. It's not about your arm or your fist. It's about where you bring the power from.
That's right. You put your weight into it and step into it. So that way, for me, it's like that's putting 265 behind a punch. You're going to feel that.
That's where Holyfield was smart and figured Tyson out, because as long as you keep Tyson backing up, he doesn't have the power.
Right.
And that's what he was doing. He was like clutching him and backing him up and, letting him lunge forward.
Holyfield's probably the greatest victim player, too, because he was not clean in that fight either.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, I don't blame Tyson because there were multiple times he did dirty shit and the ref did nothing. So, yeah, anybody's going to get frustrated.
Yep, that's what caused it, because behind his punches, he was throwing a sneaky headbutt in.
Every time. He did like 3 times that the ref did nothing.
And Tyson told the ref, he's throwing headbutts, do something about it. And he's like, I didn't see it, I can't. And it happened again, and he told him again, and he said, if you don't do something about it next time, I will. And he didn't, so Tyson did. And everyone just points at Tyson and says, oh, you bit the dude's ear, and it's like, you didn't pay attention to what caused that. It wasn't just people get this mindset of he felt he was like in danger of losing, so he tried to pull some shit. No, that was not it at all.
Just like, see, the problem is you got a guy like Tyson, he's at a disadvantage because of how ferocious he is. And even the thing with the rape charge, okay? And this is nothing belittling rape, but if you're going up to Mike Tyson's room at 2 a.m. and you just got picked up by a limo and you're going up there at 2 a.m., what do you think you're going there for?
I mean, yeah, it's
Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, I don't know. I personally to this day don't believe that I believe he did a lot of other heinous things. I don't believe he raped her.
Yeah, I mean, shit, back then I don't think you want to go to Mike Tyson's room at 2 p.m.
No doubt.
It's not the move back then, especially. He was a different cat.
Yeah. Yep. And we got Don King's right down the street from my studios here. I think he was the destruction of boxing. I think he's what led the way to MMA being what it is, because he destroyed boxing enough to create the opening for MMA.
Yeah, he was about money, and that was about it. That was pretty evident.
Oh, and he would play people, and the things he did to these fighters. Well, he did to Tyson. Like I think he destroyed Tyson, basically.
Yeah, he was a hindrance. I don't think he offered anything to Mike that Mike needed.
No, what he did is he created the Mike that Cuss try and took him away from. You know, he brought him back to the street Mike, and
Yeah.
that's where the problems came into play. And you know, and the party and the listen even Tyson admitted he did not, you know, prepare for the Buster Douglas fight. He probably didn't take it seriously. Customato would have never allowed that to happen.
Oh, hell no. You know, that's very true. I mean, and honestly, who really benefit from that relationship?
Exactly.
You know, who was getting the better end of that deal?
No doubt about it.
So, you know, and people keep saying Lesnar, you know, is going to come back to UFC. I doubt that. I highly doubt that. Because if he did, first of all, he's already lost his license. So if Lesnar was to come back to UFC, first and foremost, minimum he'd be looking at about 65,000 in fines for each, I think, failed drug test. So, yeah, he got nailed a couple times with, I think it was an anti-estrogen that he claimed was from a puffer. That's a bit of a reach. But, you know, coming from that industry, I can tell you right now, even if it was a supplement you bought in a store, it doesn't matter because it's your responsibility to know what the fuck you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
Label. If it's banned substance, I use a brand called Rivalist for a lot of things, and they are not my sponsors. So I'm not like endorsing them or whatever, but I use them because they guarantee on the label that there is zero banned substances for competitive sports. You're not going to get nailed with anything. So, you know, I can get my protein in that way without worrying, you know, which is great. And they're pretty competitive too, I think, with the flavors of the protein, which is nice. I got one right now that tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is fucking nice.
Cool. I'm down with the proteins. I can tell you at a young age, when I saw what happened to Lyle Alzado from roids, like, I can't even imagine why anybody would even start doing that.
That shit scares the hell out of me, the concept of it, because the second you touch them, you've basically altered your genetics, which I don't feel anybody has any business doing. And they say once you touch the shit once, now you're getting test shots every so often, every month for the rest of your life. You're getting, you know, testosterone replacement shots every month for the rest of your life because the body won't produce it anymore, you know, because of these damn things. It's like, no, I have no interest in that shit. I'm not going to knock anybody that digs it unless you're in a competitive sport and you're using it to get an advantage, then I think you're garbage. But, you know, if you're just in the gym every day doing your thing and you just want to look better, whatever, fine, teach their own. But I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, and you know what? If you need to take roids to be competitive, then, in my opinion, you're just a pussy because
you don't belong in the sport at that point.
You know, it's not. If you're tough, be tough.
Exactly. You know, and what the shit does, I mean, the second you stop taking it, you lose all that progress anyway, all that size, but you keep all the damage that was done. It's irreversible. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me.
No.
I know back in the day in like the 70s and whatever, it was perfectly legal and everybody was using this shit and whatever, but it's like you didn't know any better than, you know, now you have all this, you know, proof of, oh, and then what really grosses me out is the HGH use. Bodybuilders are not what they used to be. I don't know if you see them today, but they look pregnant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like muscular, but they have this big pregnancy gut because HGH makes your organs grow with your muscles.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, that's why they die early. You know, and for what? To wear like a little G-string for a bunch of other dudes to sit there and judge you when they look like they've never stepped foot in a gym? You're killing yourself for that?
And you see some of these people, especially women, and it's kind of gross. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, these people look, it's like it doesn't even look good.
No, I feel the same way. I mean, there are some that found the right balance where it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then there's the others that, yeah, it's like, well, that's way too much, man. Um, hell, you even ask women with like a lot of the bodybuilders today, and they're like, dude, that's too much muscle, and you can tell they're not natural. They're on some crazy shit, and it just looks gross. And it's like, I get that. I totally get that. I think there is such thing as too much, especially when it's not natural. They don't look anything like they did back in like the 70s, where it was all natural for the most part. Yeah, there's some steroid use, but it was still nothing in comparison to what you see today. And then some of these guys can't even walk anymore.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I just don't understand steroid use. That, like I said, to each their own, but fuck, it's not for me, man. It's just it's dangerous. It's bad for the heart. There's a whole slew of problems that comes with it, and your organs suffer for it. And next thing you know, you're dropping dead at like 40 something.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's not for me, man. But before I wrap this up, because I know you probably got some things to do, I was going to say, I saw a post that you had about your daughter, just kicking so much ass, dude. That was so impressive to me, to go from like such a bad situation to training her ass off now. I thought that was so cool. I just
Shows the power of the mind, and you can play victim or you could do something. We can't change the things that happen to us. We can only change our outlook. There's a motivational speaker that's one of my favorites, his name's W. Mitchell. And he had two accidents. One where he burned 90% of his body. I think that was on a motorcycle. And then another one was a plane accident where he became a quadriplegic. And his thing is, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. And yes, so my daughter it was the summer right before her senior year of high school, and she had a brain aneurysm, lost the whole left side of her body. The type that she had, 20% of people survive at that 20%, only 5% get their motor functions back. And she was determined to go back and graduate with her class. So she worked really hard. She was in a hospital homebound for schooling the first semester. She ended up getting her motor functions back to go back to school the second semester and graduate with her class, went on to college. And she still had residual things, but it got better and better. And now you would never know that ever happened. As a matter of fact, it's very interesting because she didn't get checked up for quite a while because she was scared to find out, because it's something you have your whole life. When you have a brain aneurysm, you have it your whole life. Well, she just several months ago went to doctors, had an MRI, and they said it's gone.
wow.
Like it's not even there, which is unheard of. And now she's training for a half marathon. So there you go.
I love that, man. I wanted to mention that. That to me is the coolest thing in the world. I think a lot of people can learn from that. That's a hero right there, man, because that shows people that are feeling sorry for themselves, that are going through some shit. Get up, get off your ass, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and do something about it, because it can be done no matter how grim it looks. If you want it bad enough, man, I think that's the most impressive damn thing I've ever heard.
Like we talked about Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, fights won before they even stepped in the ring, the mind.
That's right. And I think it's so important, and people don't realize that it's all here first and foremost, because, look at the military. You could tell yourself, there's no way I can run that far, or there's no way I can do that many push-ups. When someone's not giving you a choice, it's amazing what the hell you can do.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, listen, the 4-minute mile was considered humanly, physically impossible till Roger Bannister beat it, and now it's a standard.
Exactly. They told him there's no damn way that you're going to be able to do that, and he just politely said, fuck y'all, and did whatever he wanted. And, you know, I love that. I love hearing things like that because, you know, I'm in the gym every day pushing myself, even when my body's like, no, I can't do anymore. It's like, you're going to do more. Another thing is with my son, every year that he fought to be here when they gave him 2 weeks, on his birthday, I would go into the gym and I would do first year 365 bicep curls, one for every day that he fought to be here. The second year, I doubled it, and no matter how tired it got, you know, I got, or how sore I got, it was like, you know, his condition caused seizures every day. One day he had over 60 in a day, and you know, he's just a little fella, you know, just not even 2 years old at that time. And it's like, you know what? He can't just decide to quit having seizures because it's tiresome and painful. So I can't just decide to quit because it's tiring and it's painful. I have to do this. We suffer together. You know what I mean? And I got through it. And my arms, I could barely lift them when I was done, but it was worth it. And I do it every year now for him, even though he's not here anymore. It's still badass the way he fought. It's badass the way your daughter fought. I love that kind of thing. I have. Hey man, I respect the hell out of anyone that has that kind of drive. You know, I think that's an example that everyone can benefit from. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I wanted to toss that out there before wrapping this up because I just, you know, I read that and I was like, dude, that's the coolest thing. I have to let you know how awesome that is and how glad I am that you kind of put that out there for people because it's so important.
Yeah, she's going to start, and she started pushing on Instagram. She wants people to follow her, and, you know, she's going to start a whole journey with this.
That's awesome. I think that's the greatest thing, and I commend her for it. I'll be following that myself because I love that kind of thing, and I encourage other people to do the same because that's cool. That deserves support. You know, there's so much gloom and doom and politics and all this other shit going on. We don't see the positive enough, right?
Yep. No doubt.
So before you go, is there anything you want to promote?
Yes, but can we pause for a second?
Absolutely.
Let's pause. I'll be right back.
No worries.
That pee for as long as I could.
I know that feeling. I've been there.
So, yeah, as far as promoting, as you know, sure you're familiar with the Jimmy Star Show. His show and his TV show and radio show are on my network. We have multiple radio stations. We have our main station, W4CY Radio. We have our West Coast station, which is geared more towards entertainment, K4HD Radio. We have the #1 ranked all women's internet radio station, W4WN Radio. And we also have a health and wellness channel, which is much needed nowadays, W4HC Radio, and an all cancer station, W4CS Radio. And then, of course, we do all kinds of live radio, podcasting, marketing, events. We're a media partner with all the major music festivals in the United States, mainly the rock, metal, and punk ones. You know, we're promoting right now. Corey Taylor is doing a live show at the Forum that we're promoting for them right now. And I actually, you know, I have obviously an anchor show on the station, The Adventures of Pipeman. You never really know what you're going to get there. You know, I have multiple personalities. I call myself schizophrenic. So, you know, I've been coined as where Tony Robbins meets Howard Stern. So that's certainly a mashup for sure. And of course, I interview a lot of bands. I've interviewed over, I don't know, 2,000 music artists and over the years, and you know, all kinds of people. And I interview a lot of business people too, and motivational. You know, because I have multiple sides of my personality. Obviously, athletes. You know, I'm trying to reach out to Tyson for this fight, so that's why I like to get. He's one that I've wanted to always interview, and you know, I'm just such a huge fan, and I think he's one of the most misunderstood people out there. And I'm one of those people too. Like, I hate people in the press that want to always shock jock about their guests just so they can get celebrity status making somebody else look bad. Our job is to make people look good. Okay. You know, and expose the good things about them that the normal media is not exposing. Uh, our network also, we have a partnership with iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. It will be Audible when they launch. We distribute to over 100 other outlets. We also have our TV network, Talk 4 TV. That's what Jimmy's on. You know, so we do the TV and the radio at the same time, like Jimmy's show is both at the same time. We do it professionally. You know, it's not like your typical internet radio thing or even typical podcaster that's doing the DIY. I mean, we have real studios, professional studios, state-of-the-art equipment, real engineers. You know, we run it just like a terrestrial station. We just happen to use the internet. And then, you know, I actually go on tour, of course, not now with COVID, you know, I've been grounded, but, you know, because we have these partnerships with these festivals, I go on tour and go do all these festivals and do radio coverage for the festivals and do interviews there and stuff. And, you know, it's kind of you know, it combines a lot of my passions, you know, all in one place. It's very rare that people can do something that combines multiple parts of their passions. It's either like one thing or another. And we do have a lot of new things that are going to be coming out down the pike. You know, again, mindset during this COVID time. The good news is Pipeman radio tour has been grounded. Well, that was the bad news, but it was good because the good news is that it gave me time to develop new things. And like we've upgraded our TV and we're building a whole TV network and that'll be like, you know, almost like cable with the preview guide and everything. We are having, and this is the first time I've announced it because we're on work in progress right now. But we are going to have a major virtual festival, conference, convention, whatever you want to call it, coming up in January. And it's going to be very cool. It's something I've thought about doing for a while, and now we have a way to do a virtual one, and it's going to be very engaging, very interacting. But it's the first ever convention that combines business, motivation, music, horror, film, pop culture, anime, comics, sports, everything all under one roof.
That's all.
We need right now, with all the division in the world and in my country, we need togetherness from everywhere, you know, and it's going to be one big together thing with a bunch of different tracks. And we're going to have, you know, speakers that are giving seminars. We're going to have entertainment. We're going to have film previews and probably show films, and we're going to have live music. We're going to have, you know, some bands are going to do some live stream concerts on our event, and it's going to be amazing. And if you're somebody that would, you know, is a sponsor for the event, we're going to have a virtual like exhibit hall. That's going to be amazing, and contests and giveaways, and it's just going to be the first ever of its kind. And, you know, everything from the most serious, you know, business people to people doing, you know, cosplay to music to, you know, all under one roof.
That's awesome.
You know, maybe we could have a live MMA fight too. Maybe you could hook up a live MMA fight. You could fight live at the convention.
That's crazy. That'd be awesome. And my birthday's in January, man. That'd be good times.
Nice. There you go.
I love it. I think that's the coolest thing, man. And I love, you know, I'm someone that keeps busy. I do a lot of different things too. So I love seeing that constant growth and just staying active and busy. And I think that's
take advantage. Times like this are opportunities. People don't realize it. Listen, 1918 pandemic. What happened right after that was over? The Roaring 20s.
That's right.
You know, you can choose to think, oh, woe is me, and ruin the economy, and did this, and did that. You know what? Bump that. This is where opportunities are made, and this is where, yes, people fall. but this is where people rise. And we're
Exactly.
here to rise.
There's a lot of people that are thriving in this. You know, they've adapted so well, and
Yeah.
it hasn't affected me in any way. So, you know, but then there's people that have, you know, just been brutalized by it, and I understand that and I sympathize, but I think it's what you do with it. You know what I mean? And
Not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. It's like, you know, I've seen people during this pandemic that they're waiting for wherever they work to open back up. Well, why don't you go look for something else? Maybe you'll find something better,
right.
you know, instead of bitching about it.
Sometimes doors close for a reason, man.
Absolutely. Every door closes, there's another one that opens.
Exactly. And it's funny you said that. You know, Corey Taylor is like my white whale. That's the dude I want to get on my damn show at some point.
Well, you know what's funny about that? That's also one of mine because I'm a huge Slipknot fan,
Me too.
and I have a couple cool stories about that. Well, one cool, the rest, the other two are not so cool. The one cool was I was interviewing Ray Mayorga on the tour bus, and I got off the tour bus. I was backstage. I was smoking then. I don't smoke now. And I was backstage. I sat down on the curb and I was smoking a cigarette. Some dude walks over to me and starts talking to me. Now, I'm one of those people when I'm backstage or I'm doing press, I never fanboy out ever. You know, like I'm just not into that. People that work with me, I tell them the rule is don't ask for an autograph, don't ask for a selfie. So I knew who he was when he walked up, but and he wasn't as visible at that time facially because he, you know, most people didn't know much what he looked like. And he just starts talking to me about stupid shit like the weather in Georgia the night before. And I acted like I didn't even know who he was. And, you know, and never let on, not to the very end of the conversation, just hung out and had a conversation. That was Corey Taylor. And I was like, even though I was doing that in my head, I was like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe I'm talking to Corey Taylor. This is unreal. And then, so I was doing Rock on the Range one year, and his publicist came up to me. He says, I'm going to bring you Corey Taylor in 5 minutes to interview. I was very excited about that. 2 minutes later, it got evacuated for tornadoes.
Shit.
The interview never happened. So, you know, one of these days, you know, now I'm promoting he's doing this thing, but he's so busy within the release of his new album that he's so booked with interviews he doesn't even have time right now.
It's true.
But yeah, the two, I would say the two people I would like to interview most in the world are Corey Taylor and Mike Tyson.
Yeah, see, I could get on board with the Tyson thing too. And for me, the other one would be Robert Englund.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I grew up, you know, just infatuated with Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm friends with people from the movies, man. But he would be somebody that, you know, I think he's just so interesting. He's got all these stories and shit that I've heard. That'd be cool to get him to elaborate a little bit on my show. And, you know, he's just he's a good dude. But, you know, getting him on here because, you know, social media, he's never on. So, you know, it's like nobody ever reaches him. I got CJ Graham coming on in October. He's a friend of mine that played Jason in Friday the 13th, Part 6. I'm friends with Ken Sagos from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 and a couple other people. The production designer of those two movies I'm friends with. And I just got a book from him in the mail that he put together, stories on the set of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 and the crazy shit that happened and pictures and everything. It was really cool. Really fascinating. And he wrote a nice little insult in there for me. So
Oh, that reminds me, one more, Ozzy.
yes, that would be great too.
And I have actually been lucky enough. I did a festival called Moonfest where Ozzy performed during that solar eclipse a few years ago. And he actually performed Bark at the Moon while it was happening.
That's cool.
And he never really allows like photographers, very few. And I'm not even a photographer, but I had a photo pass. they let us in for that. And I have pictures. I was directly under Ozzy.
That's crazy.
And I've seen Ozzy every year since 1980.
Fuck. That's cool.
I saw him with Randy Rhoads. I saw him with Brad Gillis. I saw him with Pat Travers on guitar.
Shit. That's insane. Like, that's cool. Yeah, he would be a fascinating dude to talk to as well.
Well, I have a story I want to tell him. That's why I want to interview him, because there's two stories I want to tell him. One was, first time I saw him with Randy Rhoads, it was New Year's Eve. Me and my bro, we both pulled the I'm sleeping over your house, you're sleeping over my house. So he told his parents he was sleeping over my house, vice versa. We get home, and I lived in Lake Lindero in Agoura, California. And basically there was a hill that went down from my backyard down to the lake. So we were just sitting at the bottom. My dad would have never seen me. And we were just waiting until, morning time. My neighbor next door, she comes outside. She sees us with all the Ozzy stuff on. She goes, "You boys just go see Ozzy last night?" We're like, "Yeah." She's like, "Hold on, don't go anywhere." She gets her husband. Husband comes out, invites us up to the house, into his studio in the house. And it was, imagine, it's 1980, it was like wall-to-wall cassettes. And he, turns out he was Ozzy's promoter, living right next door to me.
Wow.
They gave us a bunch of swag. And then he pulls this cassette tape out of the wall and says, "Listen to this. This band's not even here in the United States yet, and they're going to be huge." And it was the band Accept. So that was a cool Ozzy story. The other one was in high school, one of my history classes had a music teacher as the history teacher. So what he did was, he was like really lenient, the best history class ever. He was like, one project for your whole grade for the whole semester, and that's all you have to work on. And that was an oral report on anybody, anything. So I did mine on Ozzy Osbourne's Satanism and his music. I got an A. And so those are stories I want to tell Ozzy when I interview him.
That would be cool. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be a hell of a story too. I mean, to get his reaction, and I'm sure he's got stories to no end.
No. Oh yeah.
That he's willing to talk about, maybe, that's
Yeah. Who knows?
He's probably forgotten more shit than I've ever done. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And it is amazing. My hat's off to him. This is something I would say to him face to face. After everything he's done, and to be in his 70s and still rocking out the way he does, more power to him. Just goes to show he was the last person anybody would ever thought would last this long.
Right, with everything that he's done, and yeah, he kind of put himself through the ringer a little bit.
More than once.
Yep, and still, I guess it's a balance. If you're not stressed out because you love what you do, it kind of eliminates that, that part of your life that kind of deteriorates you, and then you exchange it for all the drugs and bullshit.
Oh, I've said to people, like, if he, when people say about him retiring, if he weren't doing shows anymore, I think that's what would make him die.
Yeah. He'd probably feel like he had nothing left, to offer. And that crushes your spirit, man. If you can't do what you love anymore, it's not too often you find something else you love as much. That's kind of what you're meant to do.
So, it not yet for Ozzy, not yet for Corey, not yet for Mike Tyson. But if you want to hear anybody else that I interviewed, people can go on to iHeart. They can go on Pandora, Amazon Music, Spotify, and a whole bunch of others. They can look up The Adventures of Pipeman, Pipeman in the Pit. And then I also have, my motivational one. So those, Pipeman in the Pit has all my music interviews. And then Positively Pipeman has all my business and motivational interviews. So depending on what your flavor is, or a little bit of both, maybe you maybe you like a little swirl.
Love it. Hey, man, come back any damn time. I love it. And especially if you get Tyson or somebody on it. I need to hear some stories about that shit.
Yeah. Oh,
Because,
yeah, and tell Eileen to set you up on my show, and we can make that happen too.
oh yeah, it sounds awesome, man. I'd do it anytime. I got a couple shows that I'm doing soon. Wednesday, I'm doing the show with Brian Sebastian, so that'll be cool.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I don't even know what other shows I'm booked for. Like, I'm so like booked up until like November 2nd that I just kind of get the reminder a day of or day before. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I have it written down, but there's still some. I'll get them all emailed to me, but then I'll get the occasional text message where it's like, okay, screenshot it. But then I'll get more messages, so it kind of buries it, and I'm like, oh fuck, that's right, I'm doing that. But hey,
Well, and you can thank Eileen, and I thank Eileen too, because I rarely go on other shows.
right, I used to, and then bad experiences. So I'm like, okay, I'll be selective now about what shows I do. Like, I've done these little indie shows where the hosts, don't like when their co-hosts kind of fanboy about you and what you do. They know who you are. So they kind of get this ego bruise where they start trying to like big league you, and they're just looking down at their phone while you're talking like they could give a fuck less. And, they want to be the big swinging dick of their yard, right? So it's like, all right, I don't really need to do this shit, man. Like, I don't expect people kissing my ass, but, it's like I got shit to do. And I've never been that disrespectful to anybody on my show where while they're talking after I ask them a question, I'm sitting there with my phone like, yeah, that's nice. Who cares? You know what I mean? I don't like that shit. And
Listen, we've been on. My phone's been ringing off the hook. I haven't even moved.
right,
I didn't even flinch, and the fact of the matter is I find this, especially when I go and do all these festivals, there's a lot of people doing podcasts and radio and press that don't belong here. You know what? You just don't belong here, and you don't do this because you want to fanboy out. You don't do this because you think you're a big shot. Like I said before, the purpose of doing this is to promote people.
exactly.
And, there's a few artists that I have interviewed that they love interviewing with me, and they would probably not interview with most of the other people again at that same festival because they ask them stupid shit, or they ask them about shit that they're not even promoting, or they try to shock jock them and make them look bad. Why do you want to make your guests look bad? What is your point in that? That's stupid.
Like, what's the end goal there? That's why when I do it, it's like I always tell people it's an organic conversation, because that way my guests can talk about literally whatever they want. If their work is the last thing they want to be talking about right now because they're normal people too, they have shit outside of, the industry that they are interested in. Like, we sat here and talked about boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's.
And I would never thought of that. It's, to me, interviews take a life of their own.
Exactly. Exactly. I love organic conversation because then I'm not asking the same shit like 45 other people before me ask, and thinking you're the first to come up with it. It's like, let people talk about whatever they want, because then you're going to get who they are. They're going to be passionate about what they're talking about because it's something they finally get to talk about. And I let them guide the conversation. You know what I mean? So that way you're not boring them. They get to talk about whatever the hell they want. It's an uncensored show. Say whatever you like. And people have asked to come back because they've enjoyed it that much. So I must be doing something.
And that's the way I am. Like, it should just be a conversation. And by the way, too, that's another thing. I have my whole my campaign, because I'm running for president of this country, because there ain't nobody else that could fucking run this country. Because the people we're trying to choose are ridiculous. And in all seriousness, but I do have a funny thing on my show. I've been doing it every presidential election. So we have one recording that is Bill Clinton saying that he did not have sexual relations with that woman. And then I get on and I'm like, I'm Pipeman and I will have sexual relations with that woman. Vote Pipeman for prez. And like okay, so maybe Trump and Biden should be admitting that they're having sexual relations with those women. You know, maybe they'll get more votes.
And there
Uh,
you
but yeah, it's an insane time, and I like. I might vote for one of the zombies in The Walking Dead for president too, because they might do a good job.
At this point, how could you get any worse, right?
You know, they would talk a lot less, and that would be a bonus. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. It's funny I'm bringing this up because we have the debate tonight, and that's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to go awry.
Always. It always does.
It's you know, I don't watch the news anymore. I don't watch all the bullshit. I may watch this tonight. I did record it actually. And then, you know, the Mike Tyson fight, same thing. Listen, I'll pay for the pay-per-view. People are like, who's going to pay for that? Every freaking person on the planet, because they want to see what Mike Tyson's going to do next.
That's right.
People think they ain't going to pay for it. Bullshit. They're going to want to see what happens. They're not tuning in because this is two boxers in their prime. They're tuning in to see what Mike Tyson's going to do.
Exactly. And I can't wait.
I think it's going to be an amazing fight. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a typical Tyson fight and not a long-lasting, because that's another thing I noticed too with Roy Jones back in the day. You caught him off balance or off guard, he was in trouble.
Yep.
And Tyson is great at taking you off balance.
Oh, yeah. He creates that, you know? He doesn't wait for it.
Like, why do other boxers let up? Like, that's where he's the best. Because once he knows, that's it. It's over. Like,
Exactly.
he doesn't let up. Like, I've seen boxers just why, and I'll yell at the screen, why are you letting up? You got him.
Right.
A chance to breathe.
Exactly. If he's gasping for air, it's just about done. You give him a little room to breathe, you just played yourself, you know?
Yeah. And then they'll come back and kick your ass.
Right. Second wind is no joke.
No doubt. So, yeah, we got a couple great things coming on the horizon. The Mike Tyson fight, the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight, and the Trump-Biden celebrity death match.
What about Tyson versus Trump and Biden at the same time? Handicap match.
You know what? That would be fun. I'd like to see Tyson run for president, actually, because you know what? His tweets can be much worse than Trump's.
I love it.
You know, and like, listen, we got 319 million people in this country, give or take. These are the two best clowns we can come up with. Like, I don't get it. And from what I understand, your country, your people aren't too happy with its leader either.
No, I'm not. I just the sight of this dude. Oh my God.
You know what? What just has to happen, and I hate to say it, is all these people just need to die off already so we can start a better world. You know, because here's what I've come up with the whole presidential thing. Okay? Why do we have two president and people in their 70s running for president in the era that we're in now? Okay? So, because they're not relevant to the present, they're certainly not relevant to the future. And, you know, it used to be a generation was 25 years. Okay? That's not the case anymore because time is like, because of technology, everything's so much quicker. And in the past 35 years, we've had 4 generations, older millennials, younger millennials, Y and Z. Okay? So how, you know, is somebody in their, I don't even think, listen, I'm a Gen X, I'm 53, I'm not relevant. And I'm relevant. I'm more relevant than most. I teach my daughter social media. I teach my kids technology. And my music tastes are younger than theirs are. But that being said, I don't think people in my age range should be running for president now. 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Yes. But with the world that we're in now, and with technology as fast as it is, and social media and everything else, I really think that you need somebody in their 30s or 40s to be the president of the United States of America to be relevant for now and for the future. Because listen, we could say make great America great again, okay? But most of the people here that are the younger generation that are going to be here when these idiots die don't think that time was great.
It's true.
You know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, what are you doing? You're just holding on. That's what's really going on right now. They're holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore. And that's why there's so much tension. And listen, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, we're falling for the oldest trick in the book because Democrat, Republican, listen, that's all a bunch of bullshit. They're all on the same team. It ain't ours. You know, and why do we have to pick a side? Why do people go into voting booths, vote red all the way down the line, blue all the way down the line? They don't even know the names of people. And why do you have to be so divided on a side? And, you know, divide and conquer, man. We're
Right.
getting conquered. You know what? We're not the United States of America till we start uniting again, you know? And frankly, we're a freaking embarrassment, to be honest. Like, I remember going to other countries back in the day and we were respected. Now you go there and it's like we're the laughing stock. Doesn't that tell you something? You know, I just don't. How do we not get star quality politicians nowadays? Okay, I just don't get it. This is the best we got.
I agree with you completely because I always said when people talk to me, you know, ask me about politics, I'm like, I don't get into it because if you really think that either party gives a fuck about you or has your best interests in, you know, at heart,
They're all the elite. You know, Obama was part of the elite. You know, and everybody wants to put you in a box. I'll say something there. Oh, then you must be a Trumpster. No. Oh, you must be a Democrat. No, I'm me. That's who I am. I'm American. Okay, that's who I am. I'm a human being. That's who I am. Okay, and I can like things on both sides. Me, I don't like guns. I don't own one, but I still think I should have the right to make that choice.
right?
Why do I have to pick one side or the other? You know, why can't there be gray? There's gray and variables in everything. Why can't it be a mixture? You know, have I ever voted Democratic? No. But do I think the Republicans of today's Republicans are Republican? No. You know, and I realized something when I got older. Okay, so when I was younger, I was a Republican. I was in the financial business, so it made sense. Okay, but then I realized once Bush became president, I'm like, well, even before Bush, right before Bush, I changed to independent. Why? Why do I have to be on a side? Will we picking kickball teams? You know, why can't I just pick whoever I want to pick and who is the best candidate, not who is the best candidate on this side, you know? And I think that's what's happening. Like, we could do all we want right now. People that like Trump, it doesn't matter what you say, they're going to still like Trump. People that are against Trump, no matter what you say, they're going to still be against Trump. You can't, you're not going to change people's minds, okay? And all you're doing by people doing what they're doing is making those feelings stronger, you know? And it's just human nature. And everybody needs to just shut the news off, shut all this crap off, shut all the chatter off, and just remember we're one people, one race, and that's it. Forget all the rest.
That's right. I don't remember the last time I watched the news, man. It's always depressing shit. It's always filtered through, so they show you what they want and leave out anything good.
It's bought and paid for. Listen, journalism ended with 24-hour news.
Yep.
You know, when you were on a network and you were at the 5 o'clock news or 11 o'clock news, they had sponsorship for the network. They didn't need to sponsor the news. That was a PSA. But then once you develop a network like CNN, which was the first one, you need to make a profit. So now it's not journalism anymore. You know?
You're right. It has no integrity left.
None at all. And Why should this network be Republican, this network be Democrat? It's the stupidest thing ever, like we have here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not news anymore when it's not unbiased.
Exactly. So my viewpoint is fuck them all.
Amen.
Fuck them all and fucking no regrets, as Metallica would say.
Amazing. I love it. That is so true. I feel the same way. I don't even bother with politics at all because it's a no-win situation. So what's
like we really have a choice?
you know?
That's an illusion.
Exactly. It's always about who lies best. Whoever
And
can
you get the
manipulate.
most money to do so.
Right. Exactly. And none of you are going to see none of that damn money, no matter what promises are made. So, it is what it is. I think people stress about it so damn much, fighting with each other. And
I don't get it, man.
I don't get it either. I mean,
Ending lifelong relationships and family members because of a political candidate that couldn't give two shits about you.
exactly. Yeah, and I literally said the same thing as you the other day, where I said I don't get people arguing on the internet and saying, "Oh, you're stupid because you believe this and you believe that." It's like never in the history of human beings or the history of the internet has anyone ever said, "Oh, you know what? Since you called me an idiot for feeling the way I do, I totally see your point now, and now I change my opinion. You were absolutely right. Thanks for putting it that way." Nobody's ever going to say that shit. So why get so agitated and start throwing hostilities towards a stranger that you'll probably never see ever, in your life because you're on a
Wasted energy. And what are you accomplishing?
exactly, exactly. And it was also, I talked about this many times before. I literally watched people on social media talking about Joe Rogan's new deal with fucking Spotify. And they're arguing with each other, calling each other names and this, that, and the third over, whether or not you agree or disagree with him taking the money to do that. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is why you fuckers are broke. Because instead of worrying about your wealth, you're arguing with a stranger about another man's. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense to me. What are you getting out of it?
Yep, no doubt. And I'll close this all out with, I noticed on your arm Madden, and I will kick your ass in Madden Football.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's my son that passed. It's an Irish name. But I love that game, though.
I've had every Madden Football since the first one in 1982.
Challenge accepted. I mean, I haven't played it in a minute, but I do love it. So I always take any excuse to play that shit.
I haven't played a lot lately, but, nobody would ever want to play me, including my son, because, I would just destroy him. I would always do an onside kick and get it, and I would always just throw the bomb and get the touchdown. And they're like, "Why you gotta do that? That wouldn't happen in real life." Well, it's not real life, and maybe I would do that in a real football game.
I am down whenever. Let's do it.
Like if I was coaching a real football team, I would just say, "Listen, onside kick every time. Get that ball back. I'm not going to rely on defense. Get the fucking ball back. And you air out the ball and get a touchdown pass every time. If you can't do that, we're replacing you with another quarterback."
I think you just evened things out. You gave away your strategy.
Maybe. I'm not afraid of that either.
I love it. That sounds like a
favorite video. I am a gamer. My two favorite video games are Madden Football and NHL.
Nice.
NHL is not as easy to dominate in.
No, that one's a tough one.
No matter how good you are.
It's the cameras and shit, man. I find they're hard to get used to. They don't follow you too well.
Well, and the shooting, it's not just how good you shoot. It's the goalie will still, because the goalie's partially controlled by the computer. So unless you as the player take that, like if you just let the goalie control it, then people aren't going to score on you so easily.
Right. It's tough. The AI is pretty damn good, man.
Get it up. So let's end with that. We'll end with, hey, Mike Tyson's, my prediction, Mike Tyson knocks out Roy Jones Jr. And hoping that Trump and Biden kill each other so that we have to vote for somebody else. And Madden Football.
Fucking A. Hey, man, it's been a blast. I had a hell of a time. I have to take you up on that. We'll do that.
There you go. It's been the adventures of Pipeman.
Right? And then one day we'll do each other's show and talk some shit about it. We'll hype it up.
There you go.
That was awesome, man. It fucking sounds like a good time.
Got it, man.
Come back anytime. Let me know if you ever want to come back on and consider it done, man.
All right. And yeah, reach out to Eileen and she can schedule you on mine.
Beautiful.
All right.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
Peace out. When will you have this ready?
Probably by tomorrow. I'll have it edited up and ready to go.
Cool.
My producer will be here tomorrow to do the video aspect that I don't know shit about. So it'll be.
All right. Yeah. Tag me and I'll share it and all that fun stuff.
Sounds great.
All right. Rock and roll.
Have a good one, brother.
All right. Later.
That was DeanK.Piper, my dude. Yeah, a couple false finishes there, man. We tried to wrap the show up, but we still had so much to say. I love shows like that, man. It's sometimes you get people that don't want to talk, and then you get other people that you just mesh with so well that they got lots to say, and I love it. I think that makes for a good show, and I can't wait to be on his show. I look forward to it. That's going to be a good time, and we will continue this again. And that challenge, man. Did y'all hear that shit? Fucking challenge me to Madden. My God. Oh my God. It's gonna happen. It has to. It has to. At this point, I see no other way. Challenge has to be accepted. We have to make this happen. And I'm gonna get crushed, but I'm not telling him that. I'll get back into it. I'll practice some more. Anyways, man, thank y'all for checking this out. I hope that his daughter's story really kind of hit you the way it hit me, because what a badass. I mean, my God, what can you say about someone like that besides pure badass? And what an inspiration. So I hope that meant something to y'all like it did to me, and motivated you and taught you guys something like it did to me. I'll catch your asses later, man. Thanks for checking everything out. I appreciate y'all, and there will be more coming. All of October I have guests from the horror industry, ghost hunters, and everything else, man, in between. And I'm also super excited about this. DeanK.Piper from the Rob Zombie Halloween remake that played young Michael Myers will be on my show on October 5th. And I'm so jazzed. So I look forward to that. Hope you check it out. I'll catch your asses later, man.
I will not speak to your smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know when.